Hello and welcome to this lecture, and from this lecture onwards we are going to learn something about services in Android, and we are also going to learn how services can be used to send push notifications to your application. So even before starting any project or even before starting to write some code, let's understand what a service actually is. So imagine for a second in a mind the activity. So basically an activity is something which appears in front of you, which has a user interface, and the user is going to interact with your activity. Now, in case of services, what happens is that service is something which is not visible to the user, but it actually runs in the background. So for example, let's say you are having some application which is used to download some sort of songs. So when you hit that download button, what happens is that the song is being downloaded in the background, and you're not able to actually look at the download procedure in the front end. So that's something which the app has to execute in the background, which the user is not aware of. So similarly, if you talk about complex applications, there are a bunch of things going on in the back end of that particular application which are not visible to the user. So this line of code which you want to execute in the back end without the user noticing them is actually written in terms of a service. So the life cycle of a service is somewhat similar to the life cycle of the activity, but the thing is, services have much simpler life cycle as compared to any activity. So for this lecture, what we will do is that we will try to design a simple service in a simple Android application and see how this thing actually works. So the first thing which you need to do is that you need to start a new project, and let's name this thing as app for service. Now I'm actually giving out some random names. You could choose your own. Click next and make sure that you select the API level to be 17. Click next and choose an empty activity. Hit finish. So as you could notice that we are going to have an activity in this application, so we have to create the service as separately. So we are actually going to have a main activity, and what we will do is that we will have a button on the main activity. So when we click that particular button, the service is going to get invoked. So we will give it a little bit of time for Android Studio to load up our project, and as you could see, now we have our project ready. So now what we will do is that we will first start by creating a simple service. So the procedure for creating a service is quite simple. So let's go ahead and create a service. So let's go to new service, and here as you could see, there are options for two services, the simple service and the intent service. So we are actually going to create an intent service, but still we will select the simple service option, and let's name the service as my service itself. Hit finish. And as you could see, now we have this service right here. Now what we need to do is that we need to make a few changes over here. The first change which we got to make here is that you basically need to extend it from an intent service instead of extending it from the service. So we'll type an intent service over here, and you need to remove this binder over here. And as you could see, it shows you an error. So if you click on this bulb, it says that you need to implement abstract methods. You need to implement methods. So here what you need to do is that you need to implement the onHandleIntent method. So simply click OK, and this method is going to be implemented. And one more change which you need to do here is that you also need to add a super to this constructor. So this is going to be super, and let's say we type in my service. And now let's go ahead and understand the meaning of onHandleIntent method. So what this onHandleIntent method basically does is that whenever your service gets called or whenever the service is invoked, the code which is written inside the onHandleIntent method gets executed. So here what we want to do is that we want to create some sort of thing which basically goes ahead and execute some kind of code. So what we will do first is that we'll go into the main activity, and here let's delete the text view, and instead of a text view we will add a button at the center, and to this and to the on click of this button we are going to add in a method. So we will type onClick equals to button clicked. Okay, so what we want to do here is that when the user clicks this button, we want to execute the service, or basically we want to call this service. So in the next lecture, what we will do is that we will learn how to write code inside this onHandleIntent method. What kind of code do we need to write to invoke, to perform some action, and how to basically go ahead and add an intent so that we could start the service. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.